monsters, and welcome to the Horror Files. I am your host, Live Dana, and on this podcast, I dive into a particular horror movie each episode, providing insights and reviews as well as the latest in horror movie news. And for this episode, we are getting reanimated with a Frankenstein tale featuring plenty of boobs, Jersey accents, ladies of the night, body parts, and exploding heads galore. Want a date, mister? Because on this episode, I will be discussing the campy horror classic, Frankenhooker from 1990.
In 1931, the world was horrified by the motion picture Frankenstein. In 1935, horror turned to terror with The Bride of Frankenstein. In 1990, the makers of Basket Case and Brain Damage bring you... Frankenhooker. Jeffrey Franken has a plan.
I just want to bring you back, Elizabeth.
He has the ingenuity.
I need female body parts.
He has everything he needs, except the raw materials.
Just hold still. Excellent. Oh, my God. Bunyan!
Jeffrey's creation is alive.
Looking for some action?
Oh, yeah.
She's sexy.
On a date? You going out?
I'm on my way home, but thanks anyway.
And she's sutured to please.
Listen, I'm looking for a very tall, attractive woman. She's purple. She's got fresh scars on her. She's in the bar!
Now, a motion picture like no other. A tender story of love and romance.
On a date?
A gripping tale of lust and revenge. Frankenhooker.
Incredible.
Some assembly may be required.
So IMDb describes the plot for Frankenhooker as follows. A medical student sets out to recreate his decapitated fiancée by building her a new body made out of Manhattan street prostitutes. The film was directed by Frank Henenlotter, written by Robert Martin and Frank Henenlotter, and stars James Lawrence, Joanne Ritchie, Patty Mullen, and, of course, Louise Lasser. So before we get into the film, just a couple little things. Bill Murray is actually a big fan of this movie, and he actually publicly endorsed it around the time of its release. I think they actually had posters or materials printed up for I think it was on like the media images for it, saying like basically they had a quote from Bill Murray like right on the front. And also Dario Argento opined this film as one of the best of 1990 as well. So Elizabeth, who becomes Frankenhooker, has the last name of Shelley. Of course, this is an homage to Mary Shelley, who was the original author of the book Frankenstein, which is actually one of my favorite classics. It's a very good book. And Frank Henenlotter actually gave out the fake breasts from this film as parting gifts at the end of the film's production. So let's get into it. Please be advised there will be spoilers. So we have kind of a cold open, essentially. We meet Jeffrey Franken, of course, who is a young man who lives in New Jersey, in case you can't tell that by the really strong New Jersey accent he's got. And he's a worker at a power plant, and he's also a scientist who specializes in bioelectricity. He has this ongoing, I guess, pet project, which is essentially just a brain floating in liquid with one big eye. And it's never really explained what that project is. It's just a brain with an eye, just sort of like a little pet. It kind of seems like, but it's kind of cute. So he's about to marry his fiancée, Elizabeth, and at a birthday party for Elizabeth's father, everybody's there. They're having a big barbecue. We should also say that when we meet his fiancée, Elizabeth, she's supposed to be, a slightly thicker girl, and is like, I've tried all these diets and blah, 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 and it doesn't work. And, I have to compulsively eat and stuff like that. And they obviously put her in like some sort of padded suit because it looks it doesn't look like her. But so anyway, but she's supposed to be more like kind of plain Jane-ish, kind of thing, even though she's a beautiful woman. So at the birthday party for her father, Jeffrey and her give him a automatic lawnmower as a gift. But when Elizabeth tries to demonstrate it, she's caught in the path and is very gruesomely killed.
What began as a birthday barbecue ended in a bizarre tragedy in Hohokus, New Jersey today. It was this power mower that brought a quick end to the life of 21-year-old bride-to-be Elizabeth Shelley. Like wood through a mulcher, the girthful fiancée disappeared beneath the blades of the berserk mower that sent her personality raining down upon the horrified birthday revelers. In a blaze of blood, bones, and body parts, the vivacious young girl was instantly reduced to a tossed human salad, a salad that police are still trying to gather up, a salad that was once named Elizabeth. But death by lawnmower is not the end of the strange twist in this case.
Of course, it's hard to be real specific at this point, but yes, apparently parts of her are missing.
Do you know which parts or how many?
Like I said, it's hard to be real specific at this point. She's just one big jigsaw puzzle.
Jigsaw puzzle?
Jigsaw puzzle.
One of the eyewitnesses to this terrible tragedy is also the young victim's fiancé. Oh, excuse me. You saw the accident happen?
I don't want to talk about it.
And you have no idea what happened to the head?
I don't know. I didn't see it. The last time I saw it, it was spinning through the air. Why don't you just leave people alone with their grief, huh?
I guess that's it. Because this is such a quiet town, the whispers can be heard all the louder. Whispers that are less concerned with the tragedy that befell a young woman than with the grisly souvenirs collected by a person or persons unknown. In Hohokus, this is Judy Graff for 8 News Alive.
So Jeffrey, in his grief, sort of starts to begin plotting to use his knowledge of bioelectricity to rebuild Elizabeth and bring her back to life. And his grief kind of drives him to have mock dinner dates with the few pieces of Elizabeth that he could kind of salvage, as well as it's funny too, because he has this like full body sketch of her that he's done like to scale on his work desk, but he's got a picture of her head at the top. And it's obviously like her morgue picture, like when she was taken at the morgue. I don't know how he got that picture, but that's obviously from where it's from. So he's, having kind of mock dinner dates and like trying to talk with her spirit, saying that I'm going to bring you back. And as well as kind of performing these sort of self trepanations with like a power drill in his head to kind of help calm himself down, almost kind of like self-lobotomy. And so he kind of starts to confide to his mother, Louise Lasser, about all of this.
Something's happening to me that I just don't understand. I can't think straight anymore. Like my reasoning is all twisted and distorted, I seem to be disassociating myself from reality more and more each day. I'm antisocial. I'm becoming dangerously amoral. I've lost the ability to distinguish between right from wrong, good from bad. I'm scared, Ma. I feel like sometimes I'm plunging headfirst into some kind of black void of sheer, utter madness or something.
Do you want a sandwich?
So he decides to make the perfect new body for Elizabeth by harvesting the body of a New York City prostitute. So he crosses over the bridge, goes into New York, and after meeting several girls and their muscled up, abusive pimp named Zorro, who also sells crack, Jeffrey tricks Zorro into letting him rent every one of the girls for a single night to find the one with the perfect body for Elizabeth. And he's sort of inspired by a news report about crack cocaine sort of causing the death of many New York prostitutes, and decides to develop this new drug called super crack, which he finds causes living beings to explode if they smoke it.
What, are you crazy? What the hell are you talking about?
I am talking about women controlled by drugs and dying from them. I'm talking about women selling their bodies because they no longer have any other choice. I am talking about human beings who need protection.
And you honestly believe that legalizing prostitution is going to somehow magically make all of these problems disappear?
Well, it's a start.
Oh, and what's next? Let the government issue them condoms? Let the taxpayers pay for the hotels?
Don't laugh. Don't laugh. She's right. She's right. This crack shit's killing them. This super crack will get the job done a lot quicker. And without any pain. Of course, it may get a bit hot.
The name of your organization is Hooker, isn't it?
It's called Hold On to Our Knowledge of Equal Rights. And if you run that film, you'll get a hint of what it's like on the streets for these women.
Roll it, Lou.
I mean, it's not like I'm committing murder. I'm not killing anybody. The crack is what's going to kill them. Hell, it's killing them already. I'm just speeding up the process, that's all. I'm not shooting anyone. I'm not stabbing anyone. I'm merely going to place a lethal form of crack in their presence. They don't have to take it. Nobody has a gun to their head. If they don't want to do it, they can just say no.
So, deciding he's doing nothing wrong, as the crack will probably kill prostitutes anyway, he decides to take them all into a hotel room under the guise of a medical examination, kind of doctor play, I guess you would call it, and marks the girls with the body parts he wants for Elizabeth. However, as he starts to begin to have second thoughts, the prostitutes all find the bag of super crack and all smoke it, despite Jeffrey pleading with them to stop. And it essentially causes all of them to explode into pieces.
Hey, there you go. Here, take the goddamn money. Don't you see what I'm trying to do? What do you think's been going on here? Yeah, everybody, play with the money. Play with the dirty money.
Whoa. Holy shit. What's this? Holy shit, it's jump! It's super jump! Holy shit, it's jump!
So Zorro hears the commotion and rushes into the room only to be knocked out by one of the flying heads of the girls. And Jeffrey quickly puts the body parts into trash bags, promising to restore them. Once he brings Elizabeth back, he's kind of like, I'm so sorry. I really am. He's like, we're going to bring you all back. He's like, very nice. He's like, he's done this horrible thing, but he's being, kind of nice about it and being like, I'm so sorry. We're going to fix you up, even though they're like in bits and pieces. So after he's picked the perfect body parts and has sewed them and Elizabeth's head together into a single body, he uses this lightning from a nearby storm, which apparently is like a pretty rare lightning storm, to shock Elizabeth's new body back to life again. Now, however, her body and her face kind of move awkwardly, and she can only repeat what the previous girls said kind of before they died. So it's a lot of, want a date? Got any money? That kind of stuff. So she says that a lot. And I'm going to get into it, but kudos to Patty Mullen for a fantastic performance in this. So the Frankenhooker escapes the basement and begins looking for her customers who end up exploding from electricity when they try to get intimate with her. She takes like this one guy who's very excited to see her and be like, yay, the woman of my dreams and all this kind of stuff. And she takes him to a hotel room and they have sex, and basically he just like kind of explodes. It's pretty funny. And so, so anybody who ends up being intimate with her, basically is dead.
Want a date? You going out?
No thanks. I'm on my way home, but thanks anyway.
Well, look at the lady in purple. What truck hit you?
You looking for some action?
Hey, get your hands off me, babe.
Need some company? Lonely? Got any money? Jeffrey, we've only got a few minutes left before we hit the streets. Have you found your perfect woman yet?
Oh, yes. God, yes. Yes. Take me, yes.
So Jeffrey goes looking for Elizabeth and finds her at a bar. But unfortunately, Zorro, the pimp crack dealer, is there too. And upon hearing her mention his name and recognizing her body parts, because I believe there was one woman who had a very distinguishable tattoo, and he sees it on her. He angrily hits her so hard that her head mostly detaches from her body. Jeffrey manages to escape Zorro and take Elizabeth home to repair her neck and revive her again. So this time he bolts her neck more securely. So it's kind of cool because it's definitely, we get more of a Frankenstein homage with the bolts on the neck. We obviously have it too with her outfit, the platform kind of shoes that she's wearing too, the black platform shoes, which is kind of cool. So he bolts her head to her new body. He wakes her up, finding this time her memory has been restored. So she remembers who she is now. And at first she's impressed that Jeffrey brought her back, but becomes furious when she realizes that, what her body is now made of and how he got the parts, essentially. So Jeffrey tries to explain himself, but he's attacked and decapitated by Zorro, who followed him home. Zorro then attempts to drag Elizabeth away with him, justifying himself by claiming that most of her new body belongs to him because it's all of his girls. However, the spare hooker parts have also been reanimated by the storm in this like kind of big giant like a freezer, like one of those long freezers that he's kept them in with this like purple goo. And they've kind of it's a wild scene. They've merged into like these multiple grotesque limbed monsters, heads that are just attached to a hand, or like, I mean, it's some things don't even have mouths, but they're like all, ah! It's really crazy. It actually kind of reminds me a little bit, of the film Society, a little bit like that. If you haven't seen Society, holy shit, go see it. Well, actually, maybe I should do Society on this podcast. That'd be an interesting idea. Excuse me. So they basically, all the multi-limbed monsters have now, they overwhelmed Zorro and they drag him away into their storage cooler to his presumable death, along with his drugs, because that's what they really wanted. And so Elizabeth decides to revive Jeffrey via the same procedure that he used on her. But Since the process only works on female bodies, Elizabeth is forced to put Jeffrey's head on a body made of the hooker body parts to bring him back. So as Jeffrey awakens, Elizabeth happily says they'll be together forever as Jeffrey moans in horror at his new female body.
Jeffrey, yoo-hoo, wake up. You awake?
Elizabeth,
Jeffrey,
what happened?
some man named Zorro came by here.
Zorro? Here?
Yes. Jeffrey, you were gone.
Dead? How did what?
Well, you kept very good notes. And of course, I used living parts.
Living parts? What do you mean living parts? Holy shit! That's not my hand! What are these boobs? Elizabeth, what did you do to me?
I can explain. Obviously, since your serum only works on female body parts, I couldn't reuse your old body or even Zorro's. So naturally, I had to make some changes.
No. Where's my Johnson? What did you do to me, Elizabeth?
Granted, what I did may have been a bit unorthodox, but hey, you look great, and you're alive, and you're back with me, and I love you. I love you, Jeffrey, and we're together again, all of us. Together again. Together again.
So yeah, so that's it. That's Frankenhooker in a nutshell. And yeah, what a film. Holy cow. So I'm just going to go into a little bit of the film itself. Writer director Frank Henenlotter improvised the basic story at a pitch meeting. After getting the okay to make the picture, he then wrote the script for the movie. And this was Henenlotter's first SAG film, meaning he was using actors who were members of the guild, but he did run into some trouble because the ladies in the guild who were in the guild that they were sending him were not inclined to do nudity, which was fine. That's their choice. Or he said, or you didn't want them to do nudity, he said. So he went to this place called Billy's Topless Bar, looking for girls instead. And a short while later, he had several strippers signed on, each of them hired for specific degrees of nudity. And SAG ended up making each of the members. So there you go. You now have Billy's Topless Bar dancers, now officially SAG members. So the film cost $1.5 million, making it Henenlotter's most expensive at the time film, but there were still budgetary issues. The producers told him that they had used up all the allotted funds for the pyrotechnics during the exploding hooker scene, to which he replied, quote, "How the fuck am I going to film the lab scene?" So he ended up calling in a favor to do some, quote, unlicensed pyrotechnics for the shoot. Lorenz recalls the guy finishing the setup and telling him, quote, "Don't worry, it's maybe safe." So yeah, Henenlotter used the fake title Frankenstein 90 in official communications and on copies of the script for the sole purpose of avoiding trouble related to people's reactions to the actual title, which is pretty genius because it helped him when they went looking for props and locations and other necessities. Yeah, I mean, that's smart. He's probably wouldn't have gotten the assistance that he did get if they knew it was called Frankenhooker. And the film was made back-to-back with Basket Case 2, and both movies were shot at New York City's Pier 40. Henenlotter said, quote, "At the time it was a depot for diesel trucks, and he was told by everyone that it wouldn't work because it was too noisy to record sound, but he said actually the concrete cinder blocks actually kept things fairly quiet, so they didn't have any issues. And Louise Lasser, as you may know, we stand Louise Lasser on this podcast. I love her so much. She does look definitely rough in this film. Sadly, she had to use cue cards, as a sickness prevented her from learning her lines. I'll just say that. Her voice was also so extremely gruff, forcing them to ADR most of her lines. They also used stand-ins for some over-the-shoulder scenes, including Jeffrey's, moment when she says, "Do you want a sandwich?" after that. And so basically the film special effects artist, Gabe Barlados, basically sat across from him in a wig while he did that. So, but God bless Louise Lasser. I just love her. And before getting into acting in 1987, Patty Mullen was Pentel's Pet of the Month for August of 1986, and it was her first starring role and the third role in her career. It also ended up being her last role for over 2 decades until she starred in Strange Toys, which was listed as being in post-production in 2022, but I don't know much more on that at this time. The purple nipple reveal during her initial strip down originally included purple pubic hair as well. Henenlotter said, quote, "We kept dyeing the body double's pubic hair to get the right color purple, but I took it out. As with the full frontal nudity, he trimmed from the earlier hooker party scene. He felt the graphic nature of it kind of stepped all over the humor. I mean, and this film is obviously graphic enough. So yeah, I can see, why he might have done that. There's still plenty to be had of graphic stuff in here. Henenlotter says that Frankenhooker was never meant to be a horror film. Apparently he had received complaints that the film is kind of too bloodless. But he dismisses the complainers because really he set out to make a comedy. He said, quote, "That is the purpose of making exploitation films," he said in an interview with The Skinny in 2013. "Usually you don't have the money to compete with Hollywood, so you compete by making it about something that Hollywood isn't interested in embracing. And anytime Hollywood has embraced a controversial subject, there's been an exploitation film or 100 who have been there first. So if you want to dissect everyday misogyny, why not through a man reconstructing his dead girlfriend from prostitute spare parts? A film has to be about something. I mean, Frankenhooker, he didn't just bring his girlfriend back to life. He wanted to fix her. She was heavy. He wanted to turn her into a centerfold. That's the fucked up aspect of the film. That's why he must pay for his sin. I've always been fond when women embrace Frankenhooker because they see past the TNA and realize that son of a bitch tried to fix her." And amen to that, because that's definitely what I see when I watch the film. And to make it a comedy and sort of this horrific, campy, gory comedy as well, I think is a masterwork, and it was really, really smart to do it this way. And also, with making kind of exploitation film about, this sort of misogyny and sex work, the drug epidemic also kind of that was going on during the late 80s definitely factors in, because the prostitutes in this are, cuckoo for crack. And it should be noted as well that in the US, in 1985, coke-related deaths or coke-related hospital emergencies went up by 12%. So it went from 23,500 to 26,300. And in 86, that increased by 110% to 55,000. And then between 1984 and 87, crack incidents increased to 94,000. So by 87, crack was reported to be available in the District of Columbia and all but 4 states in the United States, which is huge. And that same study showed that the Northeast U.S. was most affected by the crack epidemic. So the U.S. cities that had the highest crack index were Philadelphia, New York, especially the city's Washington Heights neighborhood, and Newark, New Jersey. So this kind of hit very much those points. But some scholars have also cited that the crack epidemic was kind of an example of moral panic, noting that the explosion in use and trafficking of the drug actually occurred after the media coverage of the drug as an epidemic. So, but in any case, it really was a huge political, social issue in the late 80s. And I think that I don't think so much that Henenlotter was like making fun of that, people who are, addicted or, to drugs or anything like that. I think he was making fun of more of the societal kind of outrage and craziness over the whole thing. So, yeah. So Frankenhooker, the initial release was delayed because of the difficulty in obtaining an R rating from the MPAA. The director recalled that one of the representatives of the ratings board actually said in a phone call to the production company's secretary, quote, "Congratulations, you're the first film rated S." And she said, "S for sex?" And they said, "No, S for shit." So producer James Glickenhaus fought back and brought the feud public. The MPAA ultimately gave the film an X rating, inexplicably. They refused it and released their film unrated instead. To his dismay, Henenlotter's conservative parents insisted on attending the film's premiere in New York City. But he was surprised that they were not offended by the exploitative elements. Variety wrote, quote, "Frankenhooker is a grisly, grotesque horror comedy recommended only for the stout of heart and strong of stomach." It's not that disgusting. It's really not gross. I don't know why you need a strong stomach. But yeah, maybe people just can't handle all that nudity. Vincent Canby of the New York Times wrote that, quote, "There is a legitimate sense of the absurd lurking within Frank Henenlotter's Frankenhooker, but it is overshadowed by special effects and elements that recall softcore pornography." Kevin Thomas of the Los Angeles Times called it a, quote, "hilarious, totally outrageous grin and gore comedy." Frankenhooker was named Killer B Film of the Year for 1990 by E! Entertainment Television's Attack of the Killer Bees segment. I don't know if you guys remember that show. I definitely do. And again, as I said, Bill Murray was quoted as saying, "If you see one movie this year, it should be Frankenhooker." Henenlotter said that Murray had been editing his film Quick Change and hung out with the Frankenhooker crew. After Murray expressed interest in their film, the distributor attempted to get an endorsement from him, embarrassed that they would potentially abuse Murray's friendliness. Henenlotter attempted to avoid Murray. When they eventually ran into each other, Henenlotter apologized and explained that he was not responsible. Satisfied with the explanation, Murray volunteered a quotation. So yeah. It did a lot for the film, I think. Frankenhooker was released on VHS in 1990 by Shapiro Glickenhaus Entertainment and had an interactive box, which the titular character exclaimed, "Want a date," when you pressed a button on the box. I'm going to put this out there right now. If anybody who is listening, the tens of people who are out there listening, if you know or have a copy or know how to obtain a copy of this interactive VHS copy of Frankenhooker, please let me know. You can email me at deadalivedana@gmail.com, or you can reach out to my Instagram at deadalivedana, because I need one. I really, really need one. On November 8th, 2011, Synapse Films released Frankenhooker on Blu-ray. This edition has reversible cover art with the original theatrical poster on one side and newly commissioned artwork on the reverse side. The disc contains a 2K high-definition transfer of the film and digitally remastered 5.1 audio mix, as well as an audio commentary track from writer-director Frank Henenlotter and makeup effects designer Gabe Bartalos, 3 featurettes, and the original theatrical trailer. The special features from this release were also available on the DVD version of the film, which was released September 10th, 2013. On January 2nd, 2012, Arrow Films released a special edition Blu-ray. Like the Synapsis release before it, the edition also had reversible cover art featuring both the original theatrical poster art and newly commissioned art that was different from the Synapse version. This edition also included many UK exclusives, including audio commentary from Henenlotter and starred James Lawrence, a documentary titled Your Dates on a Plate, and a tour of Gabe Bartalos' effects lab in Los Angeles. It also includes all 3 featurettes from the Synapse release, as well as trailers for the film's Basket Case 2, and Brain Damage, all of which were also directed by Frank Henenlotter. So this film has a Metacritic score of 43, a Rotten Tomatoes score of 60%, a Letterboxd rating of 3.4 out of 5. My rating, I give it a 9 out of 10. It's just so fun, and I love it for absolutely what it is. Henenlotter kind of treads lightly on the themes of the Frankenstein, lore, while focusing more on sort of the blatant issues of, modern times. It's sort of an example of staring into the abyss and having the abyss staring back at you, because it sort of mirrors the atrocities and laws of nature broken by Dr. Frankenstein and Jeffrey, with this kind of endless list of modern debauchery. You have crack epidemic, you have prostitution, pimps, gangbangers, pornography, and adding the likes of Zorro and his friend from the Huevos Grandes bar, Big Eggs, Big Balls bar, sort of like completes this kind of great, like, these are stereotypes that we've seen pushed absolutely to the max. It's kind of like if Tony Montana from Scarface turned down the wrong street and got like fucked up by the broken parts of all the people he ever did wrong. And major credit really also needs to be given to James Lawrence and Patty Mullen, who they not only excel at the comedy, but they really command every scene that they're in. Lawrence is this, has this sort of demented, somehow grounded personality with like the strong New Jersey accent, very blue collar background. And he's doing some shitty stuff, some messed up stuff. But he's also so earnest in wanting to bring back the person that he loves as well. But for me, really, Patty Mullen is the star, and it's so surprising that she never became a huge star after this. She has excellent physical comedy and control, blurting out these insane sex worker lines, and like with this New Jersey howl that she's got. And her physicality is fantastic in this. The facial expressions she can make, it's very like, it feels very Lucille Ball in a way. And it's perfect. I don't think I don't know how anybody could have done better. And I think she has something very natural that could have really translated into so much more. She's really the heart and soul of this because she just does a fantastic job. And, while his other entries, more like Basket Case and Brain Damage sort of layer their kind of questionable laughs with this crust of nihilism that's kind of very thick. With this, with Frankenhooker, Henenlotter delivers arguably his most accessible movie. He's somehow created this film full of exploding prostitutes and lawnmower accidents and this kind of cartoonish body horror, but it's not only genuinely witty, it's actually weirdly endearing. It's so strange, and it feels like it shouldn't be that way, but it absolutely is. It feels strange to say that, like, this film about reanimating dead corpses and prostitutes exploding from crack is endearing, but it is. And it delivers all of the severed limbs and these sort of stick chuckles that you kind of expect from sort of this outlandish concept. But, underneath all the expected nudity and gore sort of really beats like kind of a heart and a really a great pitch perfect comedy. Because Henenlotter realizes that if any of this ludicrous script is going to land, he's going to have to deliver a cast of characters that you actually give a shit about. Because we need to care about Jeffrey. We need to care about, Elizabeth in order to like really be invested in this and, really have it land for the audience. And he might have had in mind kind of this homage to, if any of you have seen it, the cult classic Blood Feast, Herschel Gordon Lewis's film. But where that film is sort of disturbedly morbid in its sort of sex and violence equation, Henenlotter makes a comic point of Jeffrey's sort of Puritanism and its sort of bizarre consequences. And also, Frankenhooker also has a lot of fun presenting an exaggerated fantasy of like big bad Manhattan, it's kind of funny because it doesn't seem like New York Ripper bad. Like that New York feels bad and dangerous and not fun. But weirdly, this version of New York, which is like, only a few years difference, like granted there's like, pimps and, guys leering and all that kind of stuff. It makes it feel like a little bit more like fun in nature. Henenlotter is definitely an original, and he kind of comes up with this piece of American Gothic in a way with this film that has sort of the primitive energy of Sam Fuller and sort of the dark humor of David Lynch. I mean, you think about the themes and, of this film, and is this movie really all about taking women in sex work who you view as accessible and then defining them as a monster when they won't just conform to being your wife? There is part of that that's definitely there. He wanted to bring back his fiance, but not as she was. He wanted to bring her back, quote, better. He was like, I get to have, he's like, I want to have the woman that I loved. But hey, if she happens to have like, Playboy centerfold boobs and, tiny waist and like long legs and all this kind of stuff, then, that's what I'm going to do. why can't I improve upon her? And, but what's so funny is because when we finally get to the end of the film, we see just how much that, like with the original Frankenstein, his creation and what he's done has basically fucked him, because the technology or the procedure that he's devised only works with women. That's what he said. So essentially when he puts himself into the position and gets himself killed and is brought back because she loved him too, and she's like, we can be together forever. Sadly, it's only female body parts that she would be able to do that with. So now he's like doomed to look like Jeffrey with his face, but the rest of his body be a busty centerfold, Playboy type woman. And it's kind of a rich and very fun kind of justice that's there, because, that's essentially, that's what he had done to, the woman he loved. And now he's getting that served right back to him. I thought about all of that too. And, but then also like, I then thought about the scene happen where she fucked a John to death with electricity and then ripped his head off. And then I also thought, I got to stop overthinking shit. I also think about too, like if you applied that, replace the entire cast of a film with Muppets, but keep one human character, like that kind of game. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's like a game where you can do, if you replace the entire cast with Muppets, but you keep one human character. If you did that to this movie, it would barely change. Like really, like Jeff would be the only human character probably in it. So there are messages, there are themes, there are things that are really smart and witty and intelligent here, which I think would surprise people about a film called Frankenhooker. But even though there is, these kind of like complex themes in some ways, it's really a lot of fun. And I think it's the comedy and the way that it's presented that it's a balance that Henenlotter absolutely nailed. And so kudos to him, because it's really fantastic. And the film looks great too. I mean, granted, some of the special effects are kind of like not the best, but it's okay. Like it's just so much fun and ridiculous. And, I have to say for a film, I mean, 1.5 million back in those days. And for a film like this is, nothing to scoff at, but it looks great. I still think it looks great. And performances are great. It doesn't, really drag. It's like, I think an hour and 24 minutes, I want to say maybe. And it's just perfect. So it's one of those films that you can put on, and really enjoy it. Just, it's a great film and everybody's amazing in it. So, Frankenhooker is available to watch on Peacock, Tubi, Pluto TV, Fandango at Home, Plex, Amazon Prime, AMC Plus, Sling TV, YouTube, and Google Play. And that was Frankenhooker. Now let's head over to the Horror Files News Corner. So 45 years after the release of the cult classic Tourist Trap, Bloody Disgusting learned that horror legend Barbara Crampton from Reanimator, You're Next, Jacob's Wife, Suitable Flesh, she's a legend, will be producing an upcoming remake of the 1979 horror movie. Alliance Media Partners have acquired the rights to Tourist Trap, and Crampton, the company's vice president of production and development, will be producing the new take on the classic. Crampton will be producing with Bob Portal, managing director and head of production at AMP. The original Tourist Trap was directed by David Schmoller in the film, quote, a group of young friends stranded at a secluded roadside museum are stalked by a masked assailant who uses his telekinetic powers to control the attraction's mannequins. Chuck Connors played the villain, Mr. Slauson, the owner of Tourist Trap, Slauson's Lost Oasis. The ill-fated friends, well, they all get turned into mannequins, making for one wild ride. You can stream the film, the original, right now on platforms such as Shudder and Tubi, Peacock, Freevee, and AMC+. So very excited. I love always seeing what Barbara Crampton is going to do. And she's actually going to be at Crypticon in May in Seattle. So, yeah. You don't want to miss that if you'll be attending, like myself. Horror legend Clive Barker is leaving the convention scene behind to focus entirely on his writing, with various upcoming projects in the works. A series of final appearances from Barker will begin at Days of the Dead, Chicago this month. And Barker will also be coming to Monster Mania in New Jersey. He'll be signing at Monster Mania 59 in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, which runs from August 2nd to August 4th, 2024. Barker's official statement earlier this month explained, quote, it's time to focus entirely on writing. I'm not stopping public events because I've lost delight in meeting you all over the years. I'm as passionate as ever about sharing my imagination with readers and moviegoers around the world. In the very room where I'm writing these words, I have the manuscripts for a very large number of projects, 31 of them. Some very close to completion, others still telling themselves. There are some wild projects in this collection of works, whether close to finished or done. There are also stories that you all knew I would be finishing. Aberrat 4 and 5 are amongst the books at my feet, he continued. So is the third and final book of The Art and the sequel to The Thief of Always. There are also return visits to characters and mythologies you may have thought I would never return to. I hope I am still able to surprise you in the decades ahead. So yeah, good for Clive Barker. I'm glad that he's continuing to write and is, taking the time to look after himself, which is good. We should all be doing that. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 hits theaters March 26th, 27th, and 28th from Fathom Events. The sequel to last year's viral hit that ended up making nearly $5 million at the box office. That's kind of amazing. ITN Studios and Jagged Edge Productions are all in on their, quote, twisted childhood universe. But what's the end game? Well, as it turns out, they're planning, I can't believe I'm going to say this, an Avengers-style mashup. For starters, the Twisted Childhood universe will feature previously announced standalone films such as... I'm sorry, this is so fucking ridiculous. Bambi the Reckoning, Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, and Pinocchio Unstrung, and will introduce new characters such as Sleeping Beauty, the Mad Hatter, and Rabbit from Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. All of these characters will come together in Pooniverse. That sounds really bad. Pooniverse. Monsters Assemble. It's called Pooniverse. Monsters Assemble. Jesus Christ. What are we doing in 2025 when the monsters join forces to take down the world? Blood and Honey 2's end credits will feature a first look at the upcoming Pooniverse. I can't with that word. It's so bad. Producer of Jagged Edge Productions, Reese Frank Waterfield, explains, quote, it will be complete carnage. We are heavily influenced by Freddy vs. Jason and the Avengers. We would love to see a horror movie where the villains group together and are going after the survivors. We have some incredible set pieces in mind and some sequences I think will truly shock people. The movies we are working on now as standalones are all building towards Pooniverse Monsters Assemble. Scott Chambers, producer of Jagged Edge Production, also says, quote, similar to the Avengers, we will follow Pooh, Tigger, Rabbit, Owl, Piglet, Pinocchio, Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty is kind of a wild one to just throw in there. Bambi, the Mad Hatter, Peter Pan, and Tinkerbell joining forces to wreak havoc. We are working with a larger scale budget on this one and are excited for what the future will hold. When you see the standalone movies, you will see the Easter eggs hinting towards the crossover. Some of the villains will also not see eye to eye, which will allow for some carnage within the group and some epic sequence of monster versus monster. Reese Frank Waterfield is set to direct. Casting is set to include Scott Chambers returning as Christopher Robin, Megan Plactio as Wendy Darling, Roxanne McKee as Zaina, I think that's right, Louis Santer as Tigger. More casting announcements to come. God help us all. Pooniverse, motherfucking Christ. Okay, so let's move on to more interesting waters here. We got 2 big teaser trailers that dropped this week. We have the second Beetlejuice film, officially titled Beetlejuice and Alien Romulus. So the official plot synopsis for Beetlejuice is, quote, after an unexpected family tragedy, 3 generations of the Dietz family return home to Winter River. Still haunted by Beetlejuice, Lydia's life is turned upside down when her rebellious teenage daughter Astrid discovers the mysterious model of the town in the attic, and the portal to the afterlife is accidentally opened. With trouble brewing in both realms, it's only a matter of time until someone says Beetlejuice's name 3 times, and the mischievous demon returns to unleash his very own brand of mayhem. The upcoming sequel is said to be a real throwback to the 80s one, with Tim Burton employing practical effects and classic stop motion as much as possible. Michael Keaton explained to People magazine, he said, quote, the one thing that Tim Burton and I decided on early on, from the beginning, if we ever did it again, I was totally not interested in doing something where there was too much technology. It had to feel handmade. So Beetlejuice haunts theaters on September 6, 2024, and the cast features Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder, Jenna Ortega, William Dafoe, and Monica Bellucci. It's only a teaser right now, but I feel that could be promising, especially when I heard that Burton was going to be employing more practical effects and, stop motion like the original. So I think that's probably a good idea. Whether or not like the writing still kind of stands up in the story, we'll see. But it could be fun. So we also got the Alien Romulus teaser trailer, and it's officially becoming a Disney property with Fede Alvarez's Alien Romulus, which will be released in theaters on August 16th. The scuttlebutt was that the new movie would be taking on a more contained approach to the franchise, kind of channeling the spirit of both the original classic and also the video game, Alien Isolation, if you've ever played that. The official plot synopsis is, quote, while scavenging in the deep ends of a derelict space station, a group of young space colonizers come face to face with the most terrifying life form in the universe. Kaylee Spaney from The Craft Legacy, Pacific Rim Uprising leads the cast, along with Isabella Merced, David Johnson, Archie Renault, Spike Fearn, and Aileen Wu. I have not heard of any of these people except for Kaylee Spaney, who's I saw in The Craft Legacy, which was god-awful and I hated it. And Alien Romulus takes place in between the first 2 films, and has been described as an original standalone feature that will focus on a group of young people on a distant world. So Fede Alvarez co-wrote the script with Rodo Sagis, who also worked with him on Evil Dead, And Ridley Scott is on board as a producer of the film, the first in the franchise to be released by Disney. So the Alien franchise is now officially a Disney property. I don't know about this. I think what's getting probably the horror community, or some in the horror community, excited about this is the ones who loved Evil Dead are kind of hoping he's going to bring that energy to the Alien franchise. So I think the expectation here is definitely more blood, more gore. I don't know. I'm kind of like it. I can't really get a feel from the teaser trailer. It just feels like another Alien film. I doesn't see like we're kind of treading a lot of new ground story-wise, to be honest. But I don't know. I probably will check it out at some point, but you know, hey, who knows? So that's it for this week, you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Oh, wait, I have an announcement. I can't forget this because I'm always forgetting this. So before I say goodbye, want to let you guys know I will be at Crypticon Seattle this year. It's starting, I think it's May 3rd through the 5th. I'm pretty sure that's right. I'm sorry, Jason, if that's not correct. But in any case, I will be there. I will be on a couple of the panels that are there. One is a podcasting 101. Another is Giallo 101, which guys know. I'm a Giallo girl. Also exploring grief and trauma and horror. And also women behaving badly. So sort of our favorite ladies of horror doing terrible, terrible things. So I'm also a fan of that as well. Oh, and also culinary creepiness. Which I'm kind of intrigued about and excited about, sort of exploring food in horror films. I do love to bake, so I'm definitely all about that. But I will be there, so if you guys will be attending, anybody attending the Crypticon Seattle this year, come by one of my panels and check it out. Hopefully I won't be too nervous. I don't know, and I will be coherent. So anyway, that's it for this week, you guys. Thank you so much for listening. As always, you can find me on Letterboxd, Twitter, and Threads at Dead Alive Dana. And if you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes or movies that you want me to talk about, you can email me at deadalivedana@gmail.com. And until next time, monsters, stay safe, and most importantly, stay spooky.